Jackson spent 3 years at the helm with the Knicks. They did not make any playoff appearances in that time. I was kind of expecting a scroll here, but okay. And much of it was spent in a power struggle with Carmelo Anthony. However, Kristaps Porzingis, also on his watch. Zach, now that some time has passed, a year out, I think it's time for reflection. How's your perception, or what is your perception of Phil Jackson right now? How has it changed?
First of all, as the King's turn was always the best, okay?
I mean, by the way, not was, is, as the King's turn is still going. Don't take that away from me.
Second of all, we really need to find the photo that he tweeted of his feet up at the lake house in Montana. Other than that, my perception has not really changed. I mean, Porzingis is still there. They didn't trade him, despite what may or may not have been Phil exploring that option. Ntilikina is still a question mark. Noah's contract is still a disaster, much as the same as it was when he left.
Phil Jackson joins a pretty illustrious group of people who are good NBA head coaches and not very good executives. And that's the perception. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think one of the things we forget is, you know, Steve Kerr, I remember talking about this a few years ago. I mean, it's harder to kind of shape the team from the front office than it is as a coach.
You're not in front of the players as much, and you're not in front of the media as much.
Right, and then, oh, by the way, now you also have to deal more with the owner.
Right.
I'm just like killing owners today. I just... but I think
there's an argument that's for a reason. Continue.
Yeah, and I think Phil Jackson learned that. Right. Like you just can't put your.
But
hand
here's a guy who was considered pretty Teflon after winning 9 rings, and you know what I mean, in these 2 different cities as a coach, and obviously again also his playing career.
Execs are never Teflon, and they get abused. I mean, you're casting your lot with a pick. Right. And to the extent that those picks succeed, you're a hero. To the extent they fail, you're a goat. And all the failures, you always take more hit for the failures than you get praise for the success.
Look, he went head-to-head against Carmelo Anthony. That turned off a ton of players. Some of his language and the comments he used when describing LeBron James turned off a bunch of players. He was considered previous to that as someone who was at least nominally on the side of Kobe and Shaq. Producer Steve's in my head saying Phil has 11 rings. Wasn't it 9 as a coach, or am I getting that wrong also?
No, 10.
Oh, I see. 5 is that. Okay, so there you go, 11
right.
rings. 5 is a Lakers, 6 is a Bulls. What Steve is saying in my head. I don't know what I thought.
I just remember the X hat. That's all.
Right, right. My point is that with Kobe and Shaq, obviously there was tension, but there was the idea that he was a voice for them. Certainly Michael and Scottie, he was on their side versus management. He was not on the player's side. As a GM and president in the Knicks, and I do think it changed the way.
And it arguably wasn't on the coach's side either. You know, trying to force feed some elements of the triangle at least to a team and a player who didn't seem particularly suited to it.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't know. I'm giving Phil Jackson's playing career in my head more.
You know,
probably worth.
He also represents the last in an era, which is, the coaches have less authority than they used to in terms of shaping, and we're seeing that in Houston. A coach's style is not as doctrinaire as it used to be.
Right. And although I would give Mike credit for being...
Absolutely.
There you go. Sources, speaking of the Knicks, telling our own Ian Begley that the Knicks center Enes Kanter leaning toward opting in to his $18.6 million option. Kevin, does Kanter really have no choice?
I mean, the market for... I mean, he's a different kind of one-way big man, obviously. I mean... That's the mother load because he's not worth a fraction of that in free agency.
You always have choices. You could light money on fire if you wanted to. I mean, it's a choice. Everyone's got choices.
But you would if you were him. That's a choice you would make.
Obviously.
I'm just saying. You're saying you're playing both sides here. Yes.
No, he should opt in. He's opting in, and he should.
Absolutely.